You know, there's this scene in every sci-fi movie that signals the point of no return. The rogue scientist, backed into a corner by a board of directors or a failing experiment, looks at the glowing green vial of experimental serum and just injects it into his own neck.
I know exactly the scene you mean. It's the moment of desperation or maybe ultimate commitment.
Exactly. And looking at the tech news over the last 24 hours, I can't help but feel we just watched that scene play out in real life. But instead of a serum, it's the biggest open source AI agent project on the planet. And instead of a scientist in a lab coat, it's Peter Steinberg, the guy behind OpenClaw.
The lobster has been caught.
The lobster has been caught. Or maybe the lobster just bought the aquarium. It depends on who you ask.
It really does. This is arguably the biggest story in the AI space this year, and the dust hasn't even settled. For those living under a rock, Peter Steinberg, the creator of OpenClaw, formerly MoldBot, formerly ClaudeBot, is officially joining OpenAI. And he's not just joining as a rank-and-file engineer. He's going there to lead their personal agent division.
Which is ironic, right? Because the whole appeal of OpenClaw was that it was the anti-establishment tool. It was the tool for the hackers, the tinkerers, the people who wanted an agent that lived on their machine, not in a corporate cloud. And now the creator is shaking hands with Sam Altman.
It's the classic pivot. But before we get into the sellout accusations, and believe me, the forums are on fire with those, we have to look at the timeline. It's a comedy of errors on one side and a masterclass in strategy on the other.
You're talking about Anthropic.
I'm talking about Anthropic. Look, if you're Anthropic, you had the golden goose. This project started as ClaudeBot. It was literally named after their model. It was driving massive traffic to their API. It was free marketing. And what did they do?
They sent the lawyers.
They sent the lawyers. They forced a name change. Then they forced another name change. They made it difficult for users to connect via API keys. They treated a viral sensation like a security threat.
It feels like they fumbled an easy layup. There's a comment I saw that summed it up perfectly. This was the moment Anthropic's legal team realized they totally effed up. They could have embraced it.
Precisely. They could have hired him. They could have sponsored the project. Instead, they pushed him away. And who was waiting with open arms? Sam Altman.
It's almost Machiavellian. I heard rumors that Peter actually called Sam to ask permission to use the name OpenClaw just to avoid another lawsuit. And Sam essentially laughed and said, "Go ahead."
That's the difference in culture right now. OpenAI saw the momentum. They realized that while they have the best models, they don't have the hands. They have the brain, but they don't have the agent that can click the mouse, scroll the page, and actually do the work on your computer. OpenClaw is the hands.
So, let's talk about the deal itself. Because the headline says, OpenClaw will remain open source. Peter is claiming he's setting up a foundation, a Stiftung, in Austria to protect the code.
Right? And this is where the nuance gets really thick. A Stiftung is a specific type of foundation in Austrian law. Technically, once you set it up, you can't just reach back in and change the rules. It's supposed to be independent. So on paper, Peter is doing everything right to protect the legacy of the project.
On paper is doing a lot of heavy lifting there.
It is. Because let's be real, reality hits when you have to pay the data center costs. You can have all the open source code you want, but if the models that power that code are proprietary, or if the infrastructure required to run the agent at scale is too expensive, open source becomes a hollow term.
That's the fear, isn't it? That we're going to get the closed claw version. The community is already joking that in 6 months, you'll try to run a task and get an error message saying, "Sorry, that agent action violates our community guidelines."
That is the nightmare scenario. And it's not unfounded. We've seen this pattern before. A company acquires a hot startup or hires a key developer, promises nothing will change, and then the updates start slowing down. The vigorous development happens behind closed doors internally at OpenAI, while the public GitHub repo starts gathering dust. It gets updated at a snail's pace.
It's the embrace, extend, extinguish strategy, just remixed for the AI age.
Or, to be fair to Peter, maybe it's just pragmatism. He mentioned in his blog post that he's already played the company game. He sold a company before. He's retired. He doesn't need the money. He wants impact. And he realized that to make an agent that his mom can use his words, he needs the resources of a giant.
That mom test is interesting, because right now, OpenClaw is for us the nerds. It's for people who know what a terminal is. It's for people who aren't afraid of Python environments.
Exactly. It's barely functional for the average person. I mean, look at the user reports. People are getting API rate limited instantly. You have users saying, I finally convinced my fiance to try it and it broke in 5 minutes. If you want to move from a hacker toy to a global product, you can't just be a GitHub repo. You need integration. You need polish. OpenAI offers that.
But at what cost? And I don't mean money. I mean privacy. The whole reason people flocked to OpenClaw was because they didn't want their data living on OpenAI's servers. They wanted a local agent. If the main developer is now on OpenAI's payroll, doesn't that defeat the purpose?
It creates a massive conflict of interest. Even if the code is open, the direction of the code follows the paycheck. If OpenAI wants to steer the project towards using their specific agent SDKs or their specific cloud infrastructure, that's where the project will go.
And we're already seeing the backlash. People are talking about Agent Zero or forking the project immediately.
The Hydra effect. You cut off one head, 2 more grow. OpenClaw is open source. That code is out there. You can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. There are already forks popping up called Zero Claw or Pico Claw. The community is resilient. If they sniff even a hint of enshittification, if OpenAI tries to cripple the free version, the community will just migrate to the fork.
That's the beauty of open source, I guess. You can buy the developer, but you can't buy the code once it's released. But I want to go back to something you mentioned earlier, the missed opportunity for Anthropic. It feels like there's a shifting tide here. OpenAI is grabbing the agentic future, while Anthropic is, what? Focusing on safety?
Anthropic is focusing on being the adult in the room, which is noble, but it's boring. And in tech, boring often loses to momentum. OpenAI is aggressive. They are shipping. They are acquiring talent. By grabbing Peter, they didn't just get a developer. They bought the narrative. They bought the hype cycle.
It's a branding coup. They took the open from OpenClaw and pasted it over the open in OpenAI, which a lot of people argue hasn't been open for a long time.
It washes off some of the stink, doesn't it? It makes them look like the champions of open source again. Look, we're supporting the foundation. We're funding the future of independent agents. It's brilliant marketing, even if the technical reality is that they are consolidating power.
So, let's play this out. 6 months from now, does OpenClaw still exist as we know it?
As we know it, no. I think the Wild West version of OpenClaw is dead. The version where you could do anything, no guardrails, total freedom, that will live on in forks, maintained by anonymous anons in the dark corners of Discord. But the official OpenClaw, that's going to become a polished, sanitized, highly efficient interface for OpenAI's models.
So it becomes the office assistant of 2025.
Hopefully, better than Clippy. But yes, it becomes the interface layer. And that's huge because right now the bottleneck for AI isn't intelligence. It's agency. It's the ability to actually execute. If OpenAI solves that, if they can make an agent that reliably books your flights, writes your code, and manages your emails without hallucinating or getting stuck in a loop, that's the trillion-dollar product.
And Peter Steinberg is the guy they tapped to build it. It's funny. Someone commented that devs should just retire now and hand over control to AI agents. There's this existential dread mixed with the excitement.
It's the paradox of the engineer. We are actively building the thing that makes us obsolete. Peter is building the machine that writes code better than he does, but I don't think it's game over. It's just the game is changing. We aren't writing syntax anymore. We're orchestrating agents.
But that orchestration requires trust. And that's the core issue here. Do you trust Sam Altman with the keys to your digital life? Because an agent isn't just a chatbot. An agent has access to your file system, your email, your bank login potentially.
That is the terrifying part. Giving a chatbot a text prompt is one thing. Giving an agent pseudo access to your terminal is a level of trust that OpenAI hasn't necessarily earned yet. And that's why the open source promise is so critical. If we can't audit the code to see exactly what it's sending back to the mothership, nobody with any sense of security is going to use it.
That's why the Stiftung in Austria matters. If that foundation is truly independent, maybe there's a chance. But if it's just a shell,
then we're just feeding the beast. Look, there's a comment that stuck with me. The real AI revolution is when we no longer have to use these companies. When we can run high-level intelligence on our own hardware, without an internet connection, without a subscription fee.
the local LLM dream.
Exactly. And OpenClaw was the flagship for that dream. It proved you could have a powerful agent running locally. By absorbing it, OpenAI is trying to co-opt that dream. They are saying, sure, run it locally, but use our API to power it. They want to be the electricity company. You can build whatever appliance you want as long as you plug it into their wall.
And pay the monthly bill.
And pay the monthly bill. It's the ultimate rent-seeking model.
It's fascinating how fast this moves. A month ago, nobody knew who Peter was. Now he's a central figure in the future of computing. Oh, it really does feel like we're in the middle of a history book chapter, and we don't know the ending yet.
We're in the messy middle, the cyberpunk phase. We have rogue hackers, corporate monoliths, legal battles, and code that is evolving faster than we can understand it.
And speaking of understanding, what about the competition? You mentioned Agent Zero. Are there other contenders stepping up to fill the void?
Absolutely. There's Manus, there's Devon, though that's closed source. But the open source community is Hydra-like. I expect to see a surge in Rust-based, highly efficient, truly local agents that are designed specifically not to work with OpenAI. Spite is a powerful motivator in the open source world.
Spite-driven development. I love it.
It's real. People are angry. They feel betrayed. And that anger translates into code commits. So while OpenAI might have bought the general, the army has scattered. And a scattered army of guerrilla coders is much harder to control than one centralized foundation.
That's a hopeful thought, actually. The idea that centralization inevitably breeds decentralization.
It's the cycle of tech. IBM centralized it. Microsoft centralized it. The internet decentralized it. Google centralized it. We are just swinging the pendulum again.
Before we wrap up, I have to ask, if you were Peter, would you have taken the deal?
That's the $6 million question, or maybe the $6 million a month question, if the rumors about OpenAI salaries are true.
Right? It's easy for us to sit here and talk about selling out, but when the biggest company in the world offers you the keys to the kingdom and says, come build your vision with unlimited compute, how do you say no?
You don't. Unless you are ideologically possessed, you don't say no. You tell yourself that you can change the system from the inside. You tell yourself that you can protect the open source ethos while using their resources.
I can fix him.
Exactly. I can fix him. It's the classic trap. Maybe Peter is the one guy who can actually pull it off. Maybe the Austrian Foundation is ironclad. Or maybe in 2 years, we'll see a LinkedIn update that he's leaving to pursue new challenges while OpenClaw gets sunsetted.
Time will tell. But for now, the lobster is in the OpenAI tank.
And the water is getting warmer.
Indeed. So, to our listeners, what's your move? Are you sticking with the official OpenClaw, trusting the foundation? Or are you formatting your drive and looking for the next fork?
Or are you just going to write your own? Because at this rate, if you aren't building your own tools, you're just a user in someone else's simulation. C'était
Stochastic parrot scissor hands. I think that's the quote of the day.
a perfect description.
We'll leave it there. Keep your API keys safe, keep your code local if you can, and maybe, just maybe, don't inject the experimental serum until you've read the terms of service.
Good advice.
Thanks for listening. We'll catch you in the next repo.